Hey, welcome back to Overhead Athletics. I'm Max Wardell. I'm joined today by Amruth. He is a youngster, and we're looking at his shoulder range of motion and shoulder strength. And I just want to give you guys a little assessment on how, or a little demonstration of the assessment on how we look at the shoulder, the elbow, just a little screening as far as orthopedics go, especially in our young guys, because things are a little different in our young guys compared to our older guys, and just how the shoulder articulates, how the elbow moves. And a lot of times in these guys, we see a little bit more hypermobility and a little bit more just general weakness, which is different from what we see in a lot of our college and professional athletes, where they have more specific or focal weakness and specific ranges of motion that are either hypermobile or have deficits. Now, I want you to let me know if anything bothers you at all, like pain-wise in the shoulder and the elbow, or anything feels tight. So relax that shoulder. You also have to realize, if you're working with young guys, that they're not as used to athletic trainers or PTs moving their arm around, and a lot of our older guys have been in the athletic training office and those sorts of things before, and so it's more common for them. So a lot of these younger guys are kind of guard or brace up a little bit. So one thing I always like to look at is shoulder flexion. And I should feel the symmetry in the amount of resistance into flexion here, as well as internal rotation. I want to see if that comes up. Do you not like that motion? No. Does it bother you?
Yeah.
A little bit? Okay. So I wouldn't say any of those motions are limited, but I want to see the resistance on the opposite side. Is it more? Is it less? Is it the same? Does this kind of feel the same as the other side?
No.
A little different?
Yeah, this one feels like a lot more like stiff.
Okay, so he feels a little stiffer.
Harder.
Yeah, a little stiff. Maybe that's his throwing side, so we'll just take note of that. And his flexion feels symmetrical, and I'm not pushing through a bunch of resistance. I'm just going to where I feel some resistance through the passive resistance-free motion. That's what I like to assess and look at what happens here and what happens at the shoulder and the elbow. So nice screen. He looks pretty good. It feels a little different to him. It feels a little stiffer, but overall motion looks good. Good elbow extension. You can see here a little bit of hypermobility into extension as well, not uncommon in our young guys. And we'll see that a lot of our older guys will lose a little bit of elbow extension as they go. And I always look at elbow flexion on both sides. And so this is our screen. We just want to see if anything pops out at us as abnormal or asymmetrical. And everything looks pretty good there. Maybe it doesn't always feel good, but our motion and the quality of it, how it feels, is good there. So now I want you to come right here, and we'll do a little strength assessment. So both sides are going to go here. You're going to hold. And with our young guys, I like to give them a comparison side by side. It's a little easier for them. And then I'm just doing an ER manual muscle test. Which side feels stronger?
My right.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to have them push up into me a little bit. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Way too much. Relax. Just a little bit up. Now he's just activating that anterior deltoid. Don't let me push you in. So weaker on the right, the throwing side, when he turns off the posterior deltoid. We shouldn't really see that. So we talked about in one of our last videos about how we use the armcare.com, the actual force sensor there, the dynamometer. Don't let me push down. Which side's stronger? Or the same?
Same.
Okay, now reach to the sky. And you could see that he's really strong into ER. Good, that one's good. He's strong into external rotation, except for when we turn off that posterior deltoid that can contribute as well. And there we notice a little more weakness. We wouldn't pick that up with just a dynamometer assessment. We would pick that up with a little bit more specific assessment. And that's why we use that reciprocal inhibition. Hold here. Don't let me push you in. You see immediately he retracts and kind of pulls that shoulder down and back. Now let's see if he does the same thing on this side. So I pull him up into protraction. He does it a little bit, but not quite as much, and he's a bit stronger there. So we got to work on rotator cuff strength. He's already working on it. Arm care exercise is a component of every thrower's training. He's already doing some of that, so we're going to continue that, and we're going to continue to progress it. But that's how we look at the shoulder and elbow from an orthopedic screen. I like to look at a couple more things on the table. Number one is hamstring flexibility. Lift this leg as high as you can straight. Uh-oh. doesn't have it. So that's going to be a big problem when he gets into the throw. Lift this leg. And then we'll take him through a bunch of other dynamic movement assessments that we'll show you guys in another video. So you want to subscribe, stay tuned for that video so we can show you in the future how we take guys through a more dynamic movement assessment where we can look at hamstring length and find out some of these things that are going to have implications in his throw. For example, hamstrings, if he's tight, he's not able to get his chest forward in the throw, he's going to have to slow his arm down over a shorter period of time, and now he has to use that rotator cuff that we already saw was a little bit weak at a higher intensity. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at. This is just the first component. Let's make sure we don't have any red flags. We have good range of motion, symmetrical as possible. The elbow range of motion looks good, forearm range of motion, and then I like to look at the hamstrings, but that's a little indication of how important it is to do a general holistic movement assessment of how he rotates, how flexible he is in the hip flexors, how flexible he is in the hamstrings, the ankles, how his cervical spine rotates, and all of the other components that are often limited, especially as athletes continue to do an asymmetrical movement, which is the swing and the throw. So there's our little screen, making sure we do some manual muscle testing, turning off muscles that we want to turn off, like the posterior deltoid, by activating the anterior deltoid. So hit the thumbs up if you like this video. If you have not yet, go back and check out our video where we actually went through orthopedic pathology in the young throwing athlete, where we went through little leaguer's elbow, Panner's disease on the outside of the elbow, little leaguer's shoulder, as well as a couple other tendonitis related issues. So check that out. We will put a little card up here or a video here for you to click on the screen. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video.